This is Ayani.
And this is Corinne.
And you're listening to Sex, Love, Literature, a pop culture podcast where we take a semi-scholarly look at why
and how
the sex stuff in media matters.
In the final installment of our deep dive into R.F. Kuang's Katabasis, we somehow still have more to say about this dark academic journey to hell.
I let Corinne flex her academic muscles in a conversation about consent in fantasy and academic reality. Plus, we wrap up by turning to the book's ending and our feelings about Alice and Peter's relationship.
As a bit of a content warning, Katabasis deals with abuse and suicidal ideation. Because these themes are pretty central to the novel, we won't be able to provide specific time codes for when it comes up in our discussion, but wanted to make sure you knew going in.
So we clearly had deep feelings about Katabasis, but what about you? Let us know on Blue Sky, Instagram, and on Tumblr at Sex, Love, Lit Podcast.
And don't forget to subscribe to and rate our show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or any of your other favorite podcast platforms.
Okay, round 3, let's do it. We've been dancing around and kind of poking at and talking about and talking around the fact that Katabasis is really saying a lot about the academy, about the failures of the academy, about abuse in the academy, about power structures in the academy, and in academia kind of on a grander scale. So really quickly, we talked a little bit about how Kuang is talking about the job market, the academic job market, or the lack thereof, and how so many young scholars are like, my only worth in life is if I get this kind of position. So much so that I will go to hell in order to get my advisor back so he can write me a recommendation letter. But I would just like to talk about one particular pointed attack that she threw at me specifically. Well, 2 quick ones. So I remember talking to Andrew when I had first started the novel about the levels of pretentiousness in the novel, which we talked about a little bit in the first episode. But shortly after I had that conversation with Andrew, I found out that Alice and I went to the same undergrad. And I felt that Kuang was calling me out for being
the Ivies.
How dare you make any critiques about pretentiousness? And I was like, very rude of you, Kuang. But then after that, there's a passage, I think really only a few pages later, that talks about the fact that the academy looks down on alt-act careers. That if you do not get a particular kind of tenure track position as a magician, then you have ultimately failed. Mm-hmm. And obviously, as somebody who has an alternative academic position, this is a conversation that you hear a lot. I think we are perhaps in a slightly different space in some institutions and in some departments, but I think this is also where an interesting question of prestige comes into play. Because I will say, and there was a line from the book, and I'll see if I can recall it, but I will say that I think sometimes that I get less shit for doing an alt-act position because I got a job at a prestigious alt-act institution. And it's not that I personally think, I just want people to have jobs and like be able to eat, right?
Eat and have health insurance.
Right, exactly. But I think that is an interesting kind of legitimization of alt-act careers if you are able to be in a prestigious alt-act career. Like, one of my former colleagues, she has moved on to another job now, talked about how she, like, her professors were like, why aren't you looking at tenure track? Like, why are you not considering these jobs or this, that, and the third, until they found out where she actually got a job. And then we're like, okay. So, yeah, right, exactly. So I think it was not the focus of the book, right? I think this is very much thinking about the academy, but this thought process about jobs outside of the academy not being valuable, right? Being a waste of time. And this is a paraphrase, but it was something like professors will talk about people who went into industry like they were put out to pasture or like they were dogs in the shelter. Like, oh, they got a job in industry, right? So, yeah, I think there's a sidebar because it was only like a page and a half, right? But still an interesting conversation that is happening about what it means to be an academic and what it means to be a legitimate, quotes around legitimate, academic in these spaces.
Yeah, I also want to maybe point to here for anyone interested in this conversation more, friends of the pod, Lauren and June's podcast Under Review.
I remember excellent. Yeah.
I remember them having a really, really interesting episode about the notion of prestige in the academy and the job market and what that means. And we will link to that in the show notes.
Absolutely, we will. Love to give June and Lauren listens. And just as an aside, because I really do want to spend a lot of time talking about Grimes. I think we should come back to him. But there are a lot of off comments, too, about women who leave the academy. And
women who get spousal hires.
Oh, there's so much about women and spousal hires. But there's a lot about, in particular, people who get married or people who have children and then leave for family reasons and how that's also looked down upon. You know, there was one guy that they talked about who his like girlfriend or wife was like, look, I'm moving to Canada and you can either stay here and do your degree or you can come with me to Canada. And he went to Canada and they were like, oh, the fool. How could he move to be with his wife?
Yeah, but it also sounded like he was having a much better time.
Yeah, much, much happier in Canada, actually. So there's also this like in-world looking down the nose, but Kuang making a commentary about people who are making decisions that are better for their lives ultimately, but are still devalued by the institutions that they're a part of or that they come through. But let's talk about Grimes, because I want to let Corinne cook actually here. Because like there was a lot of reasons that I wanted her to read this book, but once I figured out that crimes, once I figured out that
Grimes,
that Grimes was the kind of abuser that he was, I was like, Corinne needs to read this. So yeah, I'm gonna let you have the floor. Like, what are you thinking? What are things that jump to mind for you? Like, as our in-house consent scholar, you know, what do we think about this terrible man?
So this was really interesting to me because of how Kuang structured it in the book. So, like, we get both the fantastic metaphor for sexual assault with the tattoo of permanent that Alice gets from Grimes. And then we have the actual attempted coerced sexual assault and the repercussions of that. And it was very interesting that with the tattoo, a lot of the rhetoric or like the way Alice described it, the way she justified it, the way all of this happened was a lot of the same sort of phrases and words that you hear from often victims of victims or survivors, I should say, of acquaintance rape who don't want to admit that it was sexual assault. Because like I remember Alice saying like to Peter, telling this story, like I wanted to do it.
Speaking about the tattoo.
Like when Peter asked if like she did it or agreed to do it because Grimes wanted her to. Or, like, because she felt like she couldn't say no. She was like, no, I wanted to. I wanted to do it. And this sort of, like, convincing of oneself that it can't have been a violation because I wanted it. And it is particularly obvious here to readers, I would say, that this is abuse on Grimes' part.
Oh, for sure.
Because of the magic of it. That because it is this alien, fantastic setting where like it is very clear that humans should not get tattoos of, I keep calling them runes. Is it a rune? Is it something else?
Magic circle. I think it's not runes because runes are a specific language and there was a bunch of different languages that they put in there. Yeah.
But whatever the tattoo is, like this magic writing, whatever it is in world, it doesn't really matter. That it wasn't towards academic research because it hasn't been IRB approved. He can't publish on it. Alice has to promise not to tell anyone ever. She has seen him experimenting on animals, many of whom have died,
including cats,
deaths.
actually.
Yeah. And knows, or has convinced herself that he has to do it on a person because a person can then tell him what it is like, and that is the only way he can know it worked. And she has convinced herself that she wanted to do it. But that is because she can't say no. Because Grimes has the thing she wants, which is this recommendation for this job that she has dedicated her existence to getting. And so, like, a quote that I wrote down in our outline really quickly that I think is interesting here is, like, when she says, like, she could not tell where Professor Grimes's malfeasance ended and where her complicity began. She could not sort out what she'd done wrong. And a lot of the times we like to think that sexual assault is very, very clear-cut and obvious. And sometimes it is not obvious to the person who is in it.
Right. I'm just thinking very specifically about the tattoo. She also doesn't tell him the negative effects of what is happening to her. So there is also this continued need for his constant approval that she can't share, that it's breaking her psyche, right? That it was so painful. There's one line where she says pretty much that she has to be a good girl for Grimes. She can't show weakness, right, when the searing pain of the magic is going through her body. So I also think it's really, it's upsetting, right? But that additional layer of he's done this to her in part because he wants, like, the information about what's happening, but then she also cannot give him full information about what's happening because she doesn't want to disappoint him because of the position they're in.
And even if she does, he can't publish it. Like, it's just for him to know he did it.
Yeah.
Like, it's not, and he gets bored once he can't do anything else with it from there. And also, like, okay, so going back to consent and why it matters,
Please.
I think, on a narrative level, that we have the tattoo and we have the later incident. Here we have a pretty clear answer when we think about affirmative consent, that even though Alice said yes, this was not something she could legitimately agree to.
Right.
It doesn't matter that she said yes. It doesn't matter that she said she would do it. It doesn't matter that she said she wanted to do it. This was textbook abuse.
Also, there was drinking involved, right? If I remember correctly.
Yeah.
There was a lot of this man drinking with young women that made me very uncomfortable.
Like, he also offered her, like, I think a sedative while he did the tattoo in case it hurt, but she said no because it was quote unquote better for the research, for her to be alert and aware and could tell him what was happening and describe the experience of getting. So there's a lot of her not just agreeing to get the tattoo, but every aspect of it, because he has so much power over her, she cannot say no. Which then it is productive to put that in conversation with the later incident where Grimes goes to put the moves on Alice, and she does say no, and her saying no in this moment is what causes her career to spiral, because he ices her out. So she loses whether she says yes or whether she says no.
Yeah, there's no winning in this circumstance. And because she can't tell anybody about the tattoo, right? But she's still holding on to this hope that Grimes will support her and give her this letter, right? She keeps going. She keeps trying to get back in his good graces, even doing things that she feels debase her in order to try to get his attention back.
Well, and like, so she even, like, tries to, I think, seduce him at one point. But, like, part of it as well is that she has the reputation of having slept with Grimes. So she is suffering both. Her reputation is suffering, and how, like, Belinda, their fellow graduate student, perceives of Alice, and people, like, saying that, oh, like, she slept her way to the top, while also being iced out by Grimes. So she has the worst of both worlds. And, like, one of the most demoralizing scenes for me is when Alice goes to disclose that this happened to the department head. And the department head, who was a woman. So Alice is, and also one of Grimes's sort of rivals.
Yeah.
And
it's more than rivals. They hate each other.
Yeah, they detest each other. And when Alice does disclose it, it's not that the department chair doesn't believe her. She does. But she kind of thinks that Alice deserved it for choosing to work with a man like Grimes. And that also, it is also incredibly disheartening because, like, this conversation is terrible.
Oh,
and
yes.
Helen, the department chair's reaction, I can't remember her last name. I shouldn't call her Helen. I feel like I should put some respect on her name. But
Dr. Helen.
Dr. Helen. Dr. M. But she also is very realistic, and that, like, the help that Alice wants, she can't give. Because she's like, what do you want to do? Do you want me to be your advisor? That won't work. You don't respect my work.
Or me as a person.
Me. And there's almost like a critique here of Alice's post-feminism, in that Alice looks down on feminism as, like, unnecessary and a little over-dramatic until she needs it. At which point it is too late. Yeah. I need to do a close reading, I think, of that conversation to, like, look at all the layers there, because Helen is a disappointment, but Helen is also not wrong.
I mean, she's kind of wrong in how I think she handles the circumstance, right? Because she's so callous and cruel about it.
Okay, yeah, that's fair. It's that she's realistic about possible outcomes, I think.
Yeah, I think that's fair, because you're right. I don't know what Alice would have actually done in that circumstance, right?
Well, like, I was also thinking about the two graduate students, I believe at Harvard, who came out and publicly accused their advisor of
oh god, yeah,
something pretty similar to Grimes. Not exactly, and I think it's probably still alleged. I don't know, I haven't followed the case, but I remember when that came out, a bunch of academics who should have known better.
Oh, yeah, they wrote that letter.
They wrote a public letter in support of this man. I don't even remember who the man was. It's not my area.
That's right. It was definitely outside of our area, but there were names on that letter that I recognized and was shocked
whose work
to see.
I had respected. Who think about power in their work. And were like, this man has never been anything but nice to me. He would not do that to a graduate student. And I remember thinking, these women are very brave, and they have also torched their academic careers. Yep. Then no one will hire them because they have done this.
Or like, can they even get through their program now? Someone,
will they graduate?
Yeah,
like who will be their advisor? Who will be on their committees? Who will respect their work?
Because also, as you know, giving you all a peek of the inside baseball, it's not easy to transfer a PhD, right? It's not like transferring an undergrad. You know, like, you could potentially master out and then take that master somewhere else, depending on where you are in the program. But not every program lets you do that, right? For example, where we went to school, it wouldn't matter for us because we both came in with masters. But, like, if I wanted to get a master's degree but wasn't enjoying the environment, I could apply to another PhD program with my master's in hand.
And then you get to start over.
Right. But you can't just transfer. Your credits don't just transfer. Right. And usually you go to a school specifically either because there's an advisor you want to work with or the program has specialties that you want to work in.
And, like, these fields are so small. And then you're a problem.
Right.
Like, if you work in, I don't know, comics, if you work in children's literature, you know my advisor.
Right.
And you would ask my advisor, hey, why is Corinne, who's halfway through her PhD at University of Florida, applying to XYZ University? What's the deal there? They know each other.
Your advisor's a great guy, though. So
I love my advisor. Neither of us have Alice's and Peter's problems.
No, our advisors
we have problems with academia writ large, but our advisors are excellent.
Yeah. And also, I don't think would want us to spend half our lives to get them out of hell, actually.
Yeah, well, it's even hard, like, to transfer advisors within a program.
Oh, for sure. Which people have done, but it's not easy.
Well, like, my advisor is incredibly unique, and that, like, when I asked him to be my advisor, he was like, A, yes, B, also if your project takes you a different direction and you want to ask so-and-so, no hard feelings, you should do that. Because I think at that point it wasn't clear if he or Anya should be my advisor.
Right.
And I didn't end up, it worked out, but, like, That's very much the exception and not the rule.
Yeah, there were some stories that I have heard of people who had to switch advisors and like how that just didn't work out for them in a lot of ways, or it slows down their progress, right? Because something else that you all should know, granted, keep in mind, Corinne and I are coming from an American academic system, and Katabasis is thinking more about a United Kingdom academic system.
But also, like, Alice doesn't want an academic job in America because it's not prestigious.
There was also a dig about the flashy, not quite so grounded American magic, one of which was like a visual magic. And of course, as a comic studies person, I was like, I'll fight you. Visuals are important. Shit, what was I going to say? You got me mad again. Oh, yes. So UK doctorates are funded, I believe, for the most part, all the way through. Right? Question mark? Not all of them?
It depends.
So, at Cambridge.
At Cambridge, if you were going to go to Cambridge to get a Phil D, I don't know, whatever, a doctorate of philosophy, I think that it is funded right now based on the funding structures if you are a citizen of the UK. But if I was trying to get my doctorate at Cambridge as an American citizen, I would have to pay for it.
Oh, so Alice had to pay for this shit too? And Peter got
she
it
might
for
have
free?
gotten a scholarship.
Oh, okay. All right.
There are limited scholarships, but that is part of how, and that it also might have been different in the 80s. I don't know, but like that is part of how like the UK system at the moment funds itself, and they're in their own funding crisis that I don't know all the details of. But it is true of academia all over that international students are a source of cash.
Yeah, and so what I was going to say is that your time to degree is important because for a lot of programs, you have a limited number of years of funding. And after you are out of those years of funding, you have to either kind of scrounge to find teaching or find other ways to support the cost of your degree. So switching advisors can slow down your progress and impact your funds, right? Granted, that's not quite what we're supposed to be talking about right now. But it does, I think, help to lend some context to why Alice is so dead set on keeping Grimes happy if she feels like her future is dependent on his opinion.
Well, and like it is so she's not that's one place where Alice isn't wrong, because even now, if you do not have a letter as someone like new on the market, if you don't have some years of work at another institution, if you do not have a letter of recommendation from your advisor, people will assume that there is a problem with you.
Right.
You have to have a letter of recommendation for your advisor, even if they're garbage.
And they can say mean things about you in that letter and you would never know. Power dynamics. Am I right? Bringing Peter back into the conversation, right? Because we thought a lot about Alice's direct relationship with Grimes. And we did kind of point to the fact that Grimes and Peter also have a nasty relationship after...
Yeah, Grimes is abusive all over. His abuse just takes a slightly different flavor.
Right. So he's got so many different kinds of abuse to enact on graduate students. It's just, it takes a certain kind of talent, I guess. But one of the things that was a little heartbreaking for me, and also I wasn't quite sure how to square up with how I feel about Peter ultimately, Peter saw Grimes trying to put the moves on Alice and interpreted it as them actually having some kind of sexual dalliance, right?
Well, he thinks that Alice is in love with Grimes.
Right. And he removed himself from the situation, even though I think Alice did kind of like look at him pleadingly at a certain point, right? But maybe he misinterpreted the look. I don't know. But he then was like gossiping with somebody about it after the fact. And Alice was in earshot and she heard him talking about it. And I don't know, like, I do have a lot of sympathy for Peter now that we know about him as a character, like what he is going through. But if I saw a professor and a student, right, like door open, intoxicated, like I don't, what am I trying to say here? Like,
did you want Peter to intervene?
Maybe, right? I didn't want him to gossip about it, I think gossiping about it and talking about Alice like she was some kind of, I don't know, saying not nice things about her and how she moves through the world. Also knowing how hard she works to get things done. Like they had a close relationship. He knows Alice's work is good. He knows she's a good scholar, and was still talking shit about her to someone else from another institution, right? Behind her back. I think that's the thing that really like made me feel gross, you know, because I can't make demands of what Peter does in that circumstance, right? I don't know exactly what I would do in that circumstance. I like to think that I would be like, I would just pretend to be oblivious and obnoxious and go in, right? Because, you know, because I'm a girl's girl, and I'd be like, this old man is touching on this girl and it's not right. It needs to stop. Because also, how old was Grimes supposed to be? Because I don't know.
I think, so he was a magician in quote-unquote the war, so I think like World War II, which is when he was a younger man, and if this is the 80s, he's minimum 50, 60.
Yeah, I was like, he's dad age, right? This is not like a man in his... Okay, so I guess I should clarify, because there are dads of all the ages, like our fathers' ages. So I don't know. I think it was more the gossiping afterwards that made me feel icky, rather than him not knowing what to do in that circumstance, if that makes sense.
So maybe I'm not fully remembering the gossiping, but I also did feel like Alice had the worst possible interpretation of what Peter was saying.
I wish I had the book, because I remember there were like hand gestures and like, you know, it seemed like pretty clear allusions to her sleeping with Grimes. Yeah. But also to somebody not in their sphere, right? And, you know, we know how reputations can travel between institutions, right? Yeah. Especially when your discipline is small. So, you know, gossiping to someone from another school about your rival and how she may have slept her way to the top, you know, feels icky. But it's also not something they ever really come back to and talk about again. He doesn't apologize, right?
He doesn't know she heard.
She doesn't tell him.
Yeah.
So that was just something that kind of left a sour taste in my mouth as we head towards the end of the novel. That made how the novel wrapped up. Made me a little kind of like, I don't know about that.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Shall we think then about...
Before we do, can we talk about the Kripkes? Kripkeses? Because their last name is Kripkes. So how do you pluralize Kripkes?
Man, their names are hard to say.
It's the British
Magnolia, I got that. But then Nicomachus and Theophrastus, they're like kind of Greek.
Yeah. I bet you Nicomastus is the one who wanted Theophrastus. Wanted that name. He's the one that wrote that one down. But, so, the Kripkes were fascinating to me. Because their role in... Well, let's step back. The Kripkes up in the living world were this kind of husband-wife magician pair who... maybe did some popular culture stuff, in that when they were doing their presentations, it wasn't just for academics. They were doing some like widely accessible magic, which when they were in the academy was cool, but when they were not, suddenly was looked down upon and frowned upon.
They were denied tenure, right?
Oh, yeah. Was that what it was? They were denied tenure and they left?
Yeah, they were denied tenure.
And they left.
Because their research wasn't serious enough.
But they became wildly popular and wildly successful with their traveling academic circuit. Lots of money, had a little baby boy. And there's a passage that, from Alice's perspective, that she goes to see Magnolia Kripke, who is the wife, do a talk. And not only is she eloquent and intelligent and also gorgeous, apparently. I imagine she had beautiful red hair. I don't know why. But also her husband, Nicomachus, does not try to steal the spotlight from her. He does not try to take credit from her work. He just kind of is like, my wife did this research, and now we're going to listen to her talk about it, and kind of looks at her adoringly from the side the entire time. So they are set up as like this academic ideal, almost. If we have all of these other families that we've read about that like the academy drove them away, or, I mean, I was just talking to Andrew about this, or maybe my dad, the other day, about how like PhDs destroy marriages. People get
Oh,
divorced
yeah.
all the time.
There were so many divorces in my master's program. I can't think of a single marriage that lasted.
Your master's, my goodness. But here we have the Kripkes, who are presented as this like ideal of balance almost in a way, and that Magnolia is able to not only be a serious academic but also a mother and a wife, and none of those roles take away from each other. And it's something that Alice really values. But then the Kripkes, this whole pride thing that academics do, decide that they're going to journey to hell in a particular kind of way and make it back, and it's going to be their biggest trip ever. And then they kill themselves on stage. Like, they slit their throats.
Wild.
Crazy. And they, like, drugged their son beforehand with, like, apple juice or whatever, so he died. And then they've been in the underworld for who knows how long.
A decade and a half.
The book knows how long. Corinne knows how long.
It's got to be a decade. If Alice saw Magnolia Kripke give a talk,
yeah,
and when she was like an early undergrad, and now she's in grad school, it's been about a decade.
Okay, so about a decade and a half. And they're the villains. They're the villains of the story. They
are the scariest thing in hell.
Yeah. Yep, they are. They make these bone things that are like bone monsters that will gnaw at your flesh and eat you. They find living things that have wandered into hell, because apparently animals sometimes can just cross into hell. Cats are very good at doing this, which is why Archimedes is in hell all the time. So what they'll do is they'll find these living creatures that have wandered into hell and bleed them because...
Oh, yeah, the way you can do magic in hell, like the chalk doesn't work. This is an important world building detail, actually.
Yeah.
Chalk doesn't work in hell unless it's mixed with blood.
And Shade's blood is not as good as the fresh blood of the living. So the Kripkes turn into these blood thieves that are like the terror of the underworld, with their bone things going off and like trying to scavenge people and maim them and whatever.
And also, like, if another reason that the stakes are very high for Alice and Peter's trip in a way that they didn't realize is if you die as a living person in hell, you don't get to go do the whole thing and reincarnate.
That's it.
You're gone.
Yeah, you're just gone. As an aside, one thing that this novel does not really think about is the souls and spirits of animals, which I think is really interesting. I would... Again, not me, but I would be curious about an animal studies perspective on the novel, because Archimedes is great, right? But, you know, the only animals we see in this story are living ones and bones that have been reanimated, right? Maybe, like, animals are so good they don't have to go through the cycle and they just get reincarnated right away, right? Maybe animals are just the best. But that is something that I kind of noticed reading through. But anyhow, so I was fascinated by the Kripkes because Kuang is doing such smart work, right? And what I am trying to pin down is this the critique of, like, the pride of the academic, right? Because they meet kind of a sad end, actually.
Yeah. They're like the final boss, sort of.
Yeah.
For Alice.
Yeah.
And also they... gruesomely kill Peter.
Off screen. We do not see that, but yeah,
we hear it.
Yeah. Thankfully, this was not an audiobook. I did not listen to Peter's screams, right? But, yeah, they bleed him for chalk blood. Or blood chalk. I don't know. No, chalk blood. Chalk blood would be the way to say that. But the Kripkes above ground are like these seemingly happy, well-adjusted people with a well-balanced life. But is this another critique of, like, the pride of academia and the pride of academics that would lead them to, like, kill themselves and their child because they think they can get out of hell fast because they're so good?
They needed to prove they deserve tenure.
Fucking hell, man. I mean, is that honestly how you read it?
No, they were sort of just scary to me. There needed to be, from a narrative perspective, some sort of threat. And they were that threat, and they were a useful narrative device. And I don't know that it was as deep as all that with them. to me.
You know what, though? I just feel like Kuang was doing so much about how women in academia present themselves, right? Like, you have to be cute, but not too cute, so that they undervalue your intelligence. But you can't be more intelligent than the men because they feel like then they are, you know, you're upstaging them. And you can't wear your cute flouncy blouses. You have to wear Oxford blouses because that's the thing that makes you look presentable, right? So I think having all of these conversations about how women are looking and supposed to present themselves, and then having Magnolia, who seemingly has it all, but then becomes a blood woman in the underworld, I just feel like there's this kind of, and maybe I have to think about this some more, but something that, like, critique about being a woman in academic spaces. Like, it's impossible, maybe, to have it all. It's impossible to be well-balanced and a mother and a living wife and keep your soul and have tenure, which, like, I know isn't true. I know there are happily married women with tenure, right, and families. But I just feel like there's something, because, like, you know, if the conversation about women wasn't as important, we wouldn't have all of these digs and comments about spousal hires, right?
Yeah.
Because it's the woman always in this text, not always in life, that is getting the spousal hire, right?
Pretty much always in the 80s.
Yeah, right? So maybe I have to think about this a little bit more, but I feel like there's a lot happening here with image and women and how women are presented and presenting themselves. Because this is also something that happens to Belinda, right? Because Belinda comes in trying to be all cute because she's cute. And no shade to Belinda. Like, you could be cute, girl. Wear your skirts, wear your dresses. But, like, over the course of their time in their cohort, she changes how she dresses to be taken more seriously. You know what I mean? So I don't know.
Seems like there's something there for you that needs to keep cooking.
Yeah. I'm not writing about it, though. I'm tired. But yeah, I'll keep germinating on that.
All right. So I think it's so Alice does defeat the Kripkes in a final boss battle in a way that I think is very interesting. Not really for Corinne's. The stuff with the tiger that she butchers. I don't know. There's a lot going on there. That's for, yeah, well, she's also starving. Hell is not for the faint of heart. Understatement, perhaps.
That might be the title of the episode.
But we learned that Alice is... Actually, we learn a lot about the goals that Alice and Peter had in going to hell to get Grimes were not what they said they were. Peter was going because he felt bad. He felt like it was his fault that Grimes died, and he wanted to get him back so Alice could have her glorious career or whatever. And then Alice didn't actually want to get Grimes back for a letter. She wanted to get him back to punish him.
Revenge. Yeah.
Or is it justice? I don't know.
Oh. Well, maybe they're not so far apart all the time.
It's an interesting question.
Yeah. But what Alice was going to do is she had found some old writings from this, like, ancient witch who sounds like a hoot. And what she would do is kind of Frankenstein some body pieces together. Just enough of the original body, right? But a lot of other pieces from other places. And then bind the soul from hell to this weird meat cadaver, which was a painful process. Because you're yanking you're yanking the soul out of hell, which is not how things should happen. And you're putting them in a body that is not fully theirs.
Or even really like a functional body.
Yeah, right, exactly. So there was a lot of pain, physical, emotional, and mental involved in this for the soul that'll be yanked out of hell. And this is what Alice was going to do to Grimes. It's funny because she's like, yeah, I hadn't really thought about how I was going to get this cadaver to talk to the rest of my committee and be like, yes, she passes, you know, but the suffering in part was the point.
Yeah, there's a quote that I had highlighted that I think you're maybe kind of paraphrasing there. It's like, she could convince herself all she wanted that this was a rescue, but it had never been about the recommendation letters. It was only about revenge and bloody control and having Grimes understand at last how it felt to be someone else's toy. It was only a fever dream.
Ooh, Nasty meat puppets.
But it does become about, like, the consent and the lack thereof, and Alice feeling so violated and toyed with that she needs him to understand what it feels like.
To be a meat puppet. No, absolutely. And I think what is interesting in both of Alice and Peter's plans to bring them back, Peter plans to sacrifice himself, right? For Alice, whereas Alice is not going to sacrifice anybody because she was going to go by herself. But honestly, she was going to sacrifice Grimes. He was the lamb that was being placed on the altar.
Well, and also she wasn't thinking about the consequences to herself.
Right, exactly.
She wasn't necessarily going to, like, planning to sacrifice her soul, but she also didn't super care at some points if she died along the way. Like, she was not that attached to being alive.
Right. Because it sounds like remembering everything, not being able to forget a single thing that happens to you in life will do that to you. Man, yeah, because there are things that I am so glad that I can forget over the course of a day.
Yeah, that also reminds me sometimes of the different ways that survivors of sexual assault either don't remember very much or remember every detail.
Yeah.
And both of those are bad.
Yeah, and I mean, for Alice, she couldn't forget, right? She couldn't forget if she wanted to. And it was the kind of thing that would play on repeat in her brain, which, as traumatic things often do, like, that's not a unknown trauma response, right?
And like, she was also losing herself. She knew too many things. She remembered too many details. She had, like, a mantra of, like, my name is Alice Grimes. I am.
Nope, that's not her name.
Nope. Oh, God.
Right. That's why I stopped you.
Yeah. Sorry. My name is Alice Law. I'm a student at Cambridge. Like she has this pattern that she has to repeat to remember her identity.
Yeah.
God, Alice Grimes. Jesus.
Yeah. Gross. Disgusting. I mean, this brings me back to thinking about Alice and Peter, right? Because ultimately Alice and Peter are endgame, right? You know, Peter does die gruesomely. But rather than going through with her plan to bind Grimes to this nasty meat puppet up on the surface, when she meets Lord Yama, right, who is the ruler of the underworld, well, and we didn't talk about Elsbeth at all, but this episode's already so long. So
shout out to Elsbeth. She's great.
Yeah. When she meets with Lord Yama, and he summons Grimes to her, and she kind of realizes what a bag of wind he is, especially as a shade. She instead chooses to sacrifice Grimes' soul to bring Peter back. And then they ascend from hell together on some glittering stairs.
There's an Orpheus joke.
You know. Yeah, they are allowed to look back. It's okay. And then they pop open the hatch door on the floor in the streets of Cambridge, and, you know, it's a new day, and they know that academia isn't the everything that it needs to be, and they'll find a new life together eating crumpets. I don't know what people do.
And then they may or may not rewrite their dissertations, but it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. So I don't know. I think I'm very lukewarm about the ending and lukewarm about this romance with Peter. I'm glad that Peter came back. I didn't want him to just be a bloodbag.
I was really sad when he died.
Yeah.
I was like, wait, it's this kind of story? What?
Yeah.
Like, I know they were in hell, but really?
Yeah, I was not expecting him to die. That was a surprise. Though, you know what? I will say, it came up enough that if you die in hell, you die for real. So someone had to die, right? I just didn't think it was going to be like that. They fell in a hole. The Kripkes came. Peter sacrificed himself for Alice, yada, yada, yada. But I didn't need them to be lovers at the end. I don't know if I needed them to go hand in hand up the golden staircase and start a new life together above ground. Oh, Lord Yama was also very nice and gave them 1/2 of their half-life sand back. So, you know, they have a little bit more time.
Alice drives a hard bargain.
Yeah. So, I don't know. I kind of wanted to talk to you about it because I think there were too many things that Alice and Peter needed to work through as human beings before I was like, yes, you all should date. Right? But they did come together, you know, shout out again to Elsbeth because she's the one that was like, you know, that boy was in love with you, right? And Alice is like, what? Peter in love with me?
We were also fighting the whole time you saw us. Like, how could you know? And Elspeth is like, that only made it more obvious, but okay.
How could we be in love? But anyhow, you know, I don't know. I don't feel like I needed it. I feel like they had been through so much together. I would be okay with them just being like, man, we survived. You know, let's face life. I didn't need it to be a love story, especially because there was so much hurt there. And that was something that Kuang references, right? She talks about the fact that there's still this chasm between them, but like they're going to start crossing it to get together or whatever. I don't know. What did you think?
So I'm going to rewind just a little bit to think about Alice's confrontation with Grimes.
Oh, sure. I just skipped past that, man. I was like, he's dead. It's fine.
I do think so. Like, I have a paper where I make an argument that part of why Tess of the Road, which is a book by Rachel Harmon, which we've referenced already in this episode, is so effective as a fantasy novel about sexual assault, because the man who sexually assaults the main character is not present in the novel. He is only present in her memories. And I almost think we did not actually need a confrontation with Grimes.
Ooh.
Like, I do think it is... Perhaps I am of two minds about this.
Okay.
Because I kind of wish that Alice and Peter had gone to... And that Alice had just used, like, the MacGuffin, the magic MacGuffin, that she gets to bargain for Peter back and then to go back to the real world and just be like, you know what? It does not... Grimes no longer matters.
And just let him go completely.
Let him cook. Let him do whatever it is he's doing.
He'd get stuck down there for a while. It'd be fine.
Yeah, like it's not my business. And because confrontations with abusers are almost never satisfying. And that is why it is so complicated. There's this pattern that, like, we in fantasy that God, this is why I'm going to write about this. Because this is part of the pattern where, like, fantasy authors cannot imagine a satisfying ending for these men except for them to die.
And you have written about this, actually. Like, literally, there are published articles.
Yeah. I know. Apparently, I need to write about it somewhere. But, like, Grimes is already dead. And in a lot of ways, he's not dead because Alice or Peter killed him. He's dead because of his own hubris.
Also, I will say he blew up in a lot of different pieces. We never talked about that. But, it was disgusting. He exploded all over the place.
He died gruesomely.
It was gross.
Because he was too prideful to check his own work. But, like, he goes a step beyond dying to disappearing from existence. And is that punishment? Is that justice? Is that revenge? It's like there's not room for him in the narrative, so we will just push him out of it. And that is really complicated to me. Like hell wasn't bad enough for him.
Interesting.
I don't know. So I was so stuck basically on Alice's confrontation with Grimes and them falling like immediately back into their same patterns, and then her ultimately being like, you know what, actually I'm smarter than you. Fuck off. That being really like, that was satisfying, but also like I think I would have been more satisfied by being like, you know what? It doesn't even matter.
Yeah.
He is too insignificant and does not deserve this giant space in my memory.
That's right, because also she does get rid of the thing, the magic circle that's tattooed by this point. So she's able to go back to having a normal brain again.
So thinking about Alice and Peter and their romantic ending, I think I wasn't bothered by it upon reading because I was so relieved for Peter to not be dead.
Yeah.
To be gone from existence, to have sacrificed himself for Alice, that I was like, you know what? Good for these kids. They escaped hell. They're escaping academia, maybe. They're at least escaping its hold on their psyches. I am relieved for them to get to try again and figure out what that means.
Yes, I was relieved for that.
And there is, I think you're right, this chasm between them, but I also think it goes a long way for Peter to sacrifice his immortal soul for Alice's survival.
I mean, that's fair. I guess what it is, though, for me is that he does that and then he's not there for, like, the majority of the novel at that point. Or not the majority of the novel.
It's like the last quarter of the novel, I think.
But that's when Alice does all of her growth. And that's when she does all of her development. So that when he comes back to a Alice who has gone through all of these revelations. And I think for me, the kind of stories that I personally find more compelling when I'm thinking about romances are romances where people grow and change together.
Yeah. Well, that's also, I think, why it has a romantic epilogue almost, but I would not describe this as a romance.
No. I wouldn't describe it as a romance either.
Yeah.
And I think that's why I feel a little weird about it having a kind of romantic ending.
I wonder if... And now thinking about it further, I kind of don't like it either, that the alternatives for Alice are this academic tenure track job, or her life will now have meaning because it has Peter in it.
Well, and delicious food. The food.
Okay, fair. I love food.
I also really love
I support enjoying food and not living off of peanut protein powder or whatever. That's disgusting.
Seems like you and I are both kind of, I guess, lukewarm about how the book ended, even though it sounds like overall the ride was pretty compelling, right?
And I do want to say, at the time, I was emotionally satisfied. I am perhaps not intellectually satisfied now that I am thinking about it more deeply, but at the time I was like, thank God. Because I thought it was going to be more grim than it was. I thought it could have been much worse.
Yeah, no, I am glad that Peter came back. I'm glad that it ultimately ended up being that kind of a novel rather than one where we also have to deal with the fact that Peter is dead. So that worked out. And if you couldn't tell from our conversation, this book is dense, actually. It's surprisingly dense, even if the prose itself is not weighing a ton, right? Even if it's the kind of book that I think propels you forward in how it is written. There's a lot that's happening. There are a lot of layers. And as such, there are a lot of things that we actually didn't get a chance to talk about. A lot that we didn't cover.
The Weaver Lady, John Gratis.
Oh, gosh, yeah.
All of this.
Oh, the fucking tree people. There's so much that we didn't cover. So even if you listen to this and now feel compelled to read the book and didn't, there's still so much that is left there for you to discover, right? But figured we'd take a couple seconds at the end of this episode to highlight some things that were cool that we didn't get to talk about too much. So, Corinne, you first. What was cool?
So we've maybe mentioned her name a couple times, but haven't dwelt on her for very long. But that is Elspeth, our ladyship captain, who was a former Grimes advisee and died by apparent suicide, I think.
Yeah, I think she confirmed it. Yeah.
Yeah, but since regrets her decision and is trying to find her way back to the world of the living for all of the things in life that she wished she had valued more than academia.
Like food.
And that is really important to Alice's journey, I think, because it had not even occurred to Alice to care about things besides that tenure track job and her revenge. And Elspeth draws her attention to the things about everyday life and just life that give it meaning.
Yeah.
And also, I think it was very meaningful for Elspeth to decide that it doesn't matter, or the reason the things she wanted to go back for are not necessarily attainable, and she decides to follow, to get her transcript and work her way through the levels of hell that are assigned to her. And I found it very touching that Lord Yama was relieved for Elspeth when Alice reported that that's what Elspeth was doing.
And Elspeth just overall is kind of one of those really cool fantasy characters. She wears armor made out of bones and has a bunch of old books. And she's so smart. Yeah, she's whip smart. But in a way that is, like we talked about earlier, smart people that you want to spend time with, not smart people that look down on you because they think they're so smart.
And one of the times that I disliked Alice and Peter the most was when they betrayed Elspeth.
Yeah. And she still forgave them because she's the best. And also can control her shade form so much that she turns into butterflies when she's mad. And that's just fucking cool.
All right. What do you want to address, Aoni, that we have not?
Well, I think Elspeth is a good segue. And I know I've mentioned him a couple of times, but Archimedes is this wonderful cat who I did not think would be a reoccurring character in the story, but comes up multiple times at key moments and is the kind of cat character in which is very much a cat, but also you have the feeling that he's something more than just your normal outside kitty cat boy, in that he is friendly with Elsbeth and also has been alive since Elsbeth has been alive. And it sounded like she was a grad student in like the 60s. You know, so most cats don't live for more than 20 years. Some cats do. Stripe is still here, but he still appears very young, right? He's a younger guy. So it feels like there's something a little magical that's going on with Archimedes. He's not just your run-of-the-mill street cat.
We love a magic cat.
Oh, we do.
One, he clearly can go in and out of hell. It's not just that he, like, got lost in hell the way some creatures do. It's he can also find his way back.
It sounds like cats have that power, if I remember correctly. Cats specifically have a way of kind of working their way in and out of hell. But no, he was just a delight. I'm glad he kept returning. I'm glad that he developed this relationship with Alice. He does get a little beat up over the course of the novel. Like, every time we see him a little bit more, he's a little bit hurt. But when he comes back kind of for the final time on the boat with Elsbeth, it seems like he's in good spirits. So that makes me really happy. Though I will say my one pet peeve about Kuang's writing in this is that she describes his eyes as, his pupils as going to pinpricks. And I was like, cat's eyes don't do that. Cat's eyes don't get narrow. They get narrow. They don't get like small. They don't dilate and constrict like ours do. But maybe that's on purpose. Maybe so we think that's not normal cat behavior. So, you know, we get confused. We get, you know, we get thinking. But yeah, I really loved Archimedes. He was such a delight in this story. And I enjoyed every appearance that he had. Fussy guy. So yeah, that was a deep discussion of this book. And I like that we ended it on some things that brought us joy. But if you've listened to all of this conversation, I hope you have enjoyed our discussion of Katabasis. Clearly we have, even after all of this, still things that we need to work through and think about and say about this fucking book.
I gotta say, it's so weird to talk about it, and especially knowing that Kuang is an academic. Like, when I think about writing about it, it doesn't feel exactly the way it does when I think about writing about fiction. It feels like the way it does when I'm, like, referencing an academic article.
Fascinating.
And talking to, like, another scholar. And I don't know if that's a me thing or if that has something to do with the way the book is written, but it's like, it's just like, I don't know. Maybe I'm giving her too much credit for knowing what she's doing and what the effect of what she's doing will have.
No, I would give her that credit. I think this is a smart book, and I think it is doing too much thinking about all of this shit to be like, accidentally she's done something in that vein.
Yeah. Well, it's like I'm familiar with the academic overthinking paths that she has trod.
If this, you know, series of episodes was any indication.
Yeah, that we acknowledged would be 2 episodes before we started recording, but did not anticipate being 3.
And, like, I'm not sorry, but also oops.
I'm sorry to us.
Yeah, I'm sorry to future me, but not to you listeners. Who, if you've made it all this way, thank you so much for listening to our conversation about Katabasis. Look for our articles in the future. But because the publishing process takes so long, give us like a good 2-3 years. Yeah, I don't know. This has been a really good discussion, but we've talked a lot about food and I need to go eat. So if you would like more sex love literature, if these 3 episodes were not enough for you, you can find us on Tumblr, Blue Sky, and on Instagram.
As Ayane looks thoughtfully into the distance, trying to remember the social media platform we are the most active on.
It's because I'm mad at Instagram. But you can find us on those places at Sex Love Lit Podcast, all one word. We've got a bunch of great episodes coming up for you to round out this year, including an episode on Free Ren, an episode on isekai and transmigration stories that'll have a special guest who we're really excited to have on the show because we have both been on her show, but she hasn't been on our show yet. So she's finally coming. Liliana. No. Liliana. Oh my gosh. Ileana is someone it doesn't matter. Liliana from Tea and Soju. Very excited to have her on the show soon. But yeah, I'm sleepy and I need to eat. So this has been Sex, Love, Literature. We are always excited to talk to you guys about cool pop culture-y shit, especially when we get to be deep in our academic bag and have a bunch of feelings. So we'll see you next time. Bye.